Court is civilized, isn't it, pig? But I'm not. This is where the law stops, and I start. You're the disease, and I'm the cure.
Hello folks, and welcome back to another action movie recommendation. Today we're going to be looking at the 1986 cult classic, Cobra. So, let's dig in, shall we? Sylvester Stallone is Lieutenant Marion Cabretti, aka the Cobra. He is the bottom line of the LAPD. He does all the dirty work that no other cop would dare touch. And his latest case is really dirty. An unseen cult is running rampant, killing innocent people indiscriminately. And it's up to Cobra to bring them to justice or send them a one-way ticket straight to hell. Cobra is a film that has a lot of people divided. Some consider it one of Sly's best films, but some consider it his very worst. At one stage, I thought it was one of Stallone's worst films. I saw it on VHS when I was about 16 years old, and I honestly didn't think much of it. However, after buying it cheap on DVD some years later, I gave it a second watch to see if anything had changed. And you know something? It was better than I remembered it. My reasons as to why I didn't enjoy Cobra the first time around was attributed to these two things. Number one, the VHS I ended up seeing it on wasn't the best quality. And number two, the film wasn't exactly what I was expecting, which was an action film with an action level of Rambo 2. And seeing that I had always wanted to see Cobra since I was about 9 or 10, and never being able to rent or buy it because of its R rating, I had waited for so long, and I had all these expectations built up for the film. And when I finally saw it, I was underwhelmed. But looking back at the film now, I have seen it with a fresh perspective and with better picture quality. So how is the movie now, seeing it as a full-fledged adult? Well, let's start with the main man himself, Sylvester Stallone as Marion Cabretti, nicknamed by his peers as Cobra. First of all, Sylvester Stallone by this point was at the top of his game. He had presented himself as a no-nonsense tough guy with a smoky, deep voice, but he also had an underdog quality and vulnerability to him that people easily connected with. He had proven all these qualities with the Rocky and Rambo franchise. In Cobra, however, Stallone seems to be playing his character as no-nonsense and all tough. Which is fine, but his character, other than being those two things, doesn't have much development or interesting backstory. However, this is made up for with Cobra's stoic yet cool persona. He has little moments where you kind of chuckle at his mannerisms and gestures, but he also does have some snappy dialogue and one-liners to deliver with total conviction. And of course, he has a classic attire. The black jacket, shirt and blue jean combo is so simple, yet it's made all the more cooler with the addition of some leather boots, gloves, blue mirrored shades, and of course a matchstick. I also must mention Cobra carries a small but deadly arsenal of weapons, which include a classic Colt 45 pistol, which is personalised with a Cobra logo on the grips. He also has a flick knife, grenades, and a unique little submachine gun known as the Jaddy-Matic, fitted with a laser scope. And of course, his badass car, the Mercury 50, which is just awesome. Stallone is simply a badass in this film. However, that's all I can really say about him, because his actual character just feels incomplete and unfinished, and we'll get to that later, because there may be some reasons as to why that is. Next up, we have Bridget Nielsen playing a scared witness who saw the murderous cult kill a civilian, and Cobra basically serves as her protector and love interest throughout the film. Overall, Nielsen's character doesn't have much to do other than to look good on camera and give Cobra a love interest, and give him a reason for the gang to go on after her, thus having Cobra get involved. Her acting isn't that great, but it's not cringeworthy in my opinion. We also have a little reunion here with two key actors from the 1971 film Dirty Harry. In fact, come to think of it, Cobra is more or less Stallone's answer or homage to Dirty Harry. First of all, we have Rene Santoni playing Cobra's partner, Gonzalez, and in Dirty Harry, he played Harry's partner, who was also named Gonzalez. Maybe it's the same character, or just a wink to the audience, but anyways, Gonzalez doesn't have any character development, but he is likable and has some funny moments throughout the film. And the other actor from Dirty Harry that's also in this movie is Andrew Robinson, who played the main villain Scorpio in that film. In this film, he plays an uptight and relatively ignorant superior to Stallone's character. He's supposed to be unlikable, and Robinson plays it well enough. And last but not least, we have Brian Thompson playing the Night Slasher, the main villain of the film, and the leader of the murderous cult. What can I say about Brian Thompson's character in this film? I have only 2 words. Absolutely terrifying. For one, Thompson just looks scary. His physical appearance, scruffy attire, intense eyes, deep commanding voice, and explosive fits of rage just make me feel unsettled. And of course, the knife he carries is also really creepy. It just looks so nasty from the shape of it and to the spikes surrounding the handle. The Night Slasher's reasons as to why he is murdering innocent people is simply insane. He believes that he and his gang members are hunters, who kill the weak so the strong will survive. Basically, the cult the Night Slasher leads are a bunch of extreme social Darwinists. But overall, Brian Thompson plays his part with conviction and makes for a memorable and terrifying villain. It's a shame he didn't get the credit he deserved because, aside from Stallone, he is the only other actor who left a huge impression on me in this film. Highly underrated performance. The action scenes in this film are good. There are 2 great set pieces throughout the film, including one of the coolest car chases ever filmed. And it was way ahead of its time in my opinion, because it's not just shot in wide angle. The director of photography went in for these neat point of view shots and dramatic zooms on certain parts of the cars to give the scenes some variation. But also the stunts and obstacles are cool as well. The other action scene is really one big action scene that takes place over 3 distinct locations: a motel, a road, and a steel mill. And that scene is also well shot and quite creative. Cobra gets sneaky and pulls off a few solid snake moves here and there when he's in the factory. The musical score in the film is composed by Sylvester LeVay. It's a very brooding score and fits the gritty nature of the film perfectly, but there's also some catchy AOR songs played throughout the film. My personal favourites are Angel of the City by Robert Tepper. He also contributed the hit song No Easy Way Out on Rocky IV, and Angel of the City is also featured on the No Easy Way Out album. For fans of melodic rock and AOR, I recommend that album highly. Robert Tepper has returned to music recently, but his style has changed to a more acoustic sound. The second song I really like on here is Feel the Heat by Jean Beauvoir, one of the funkiest pop rock songs I have ever heard. But it's also got edginess to it, which makes it stand out for me as a song that still holds up. The song can be found on Jean Beauvoir's 1986 solo album Drums Along the Mohawk, which I highly recommend as it's a great collection of funky pop rock songs with plenty of diversity. Jean Beauvoir is still making great music to this day and is a great musician. Plus, he has the greatest mohawk I've ever seen. Another thing I must mention about this film is the look of the movie. Whenever I see this film, I think of mainly 2 colours, red and black. The movie looks just like the poster, and the contrast of those 2 colours works brilliantly, especially in the final action scene. And at times, the movie feels like a slasher film, with the way the cult hunt down their victims wearing creepy masks and carrying axes. I like that they added this aspect because it adds some flavour to the film and to help make it not just be another regular cop movie. And overall, I like how all the characters have a distinctive look, particularly with Cobra himself and the Night Slasher, who all have their very own distinctive looks and personalised weapons, something you don't see a lot of in action films these days. Now, what didn't I like about this film? Well, as I mentioned before, Cobra's character, as well as most of the characters in this movie, just feel underdeveloped. The plot also feels like it's underdeveloped and missing chunks of explanation. Now, this brings me to an interesting conclusion to this review because, according to recent reports, Cobra was originally over 2 hours long, clocking in at 130 minutes, but when Warner Brothers executives saw the final cut of the film, they felt it needed to be shorter to compete with the breakneck pace of the Tom Cruise movie Top Gun, which was also released that year. But when the film was submitted to the MPAA, it received further cuts, otherwise it would have received an X rating. Apparently, the movie was so graphically violent that the MPAA demanded they cut it down. And here's the kicker. The finished version of the film, which I am reviewing, runs at 84 minutes. That's 46 minutes of footage missing. So it's no wonder why Cobra felt incomplete, and knowing this information brings me to beg the question. What exactly did the original version of Cobra play like? Was it better or worse? Aside from the violence, I have heard that plot development and character development was essentially all removed by Warner Brothers and the MPAA. And if that's the case, it's about time Warner Brothers or Stallone get off their asses and dust off the film stock and reassemble the film to its original version on Blu-ray and release it as a special edition or something. I know I and many other action film fans would pay to get that. I have heard there's a work print out there available of the uncut version, but I have never seen or found it whenever I searched for it. However, there is a video here on YouTube that shows what was edited, and it includes some extra scenes that were shown in TV edits of the film. I'll post that link in the description below. I also must mention that we have a montage scene in this movie, which I'm not too fond of. I generally like Stallone's montages in the Rocky films, but in Cobra, it's just strange. I do like the song by Robert Tepper, Angel of the City, used in it, but the actual imagery in the montage ranges from good to just plain weird. What's with those robots? I know it's the 80s, but come on. The film was a financial success. It was made on a budget of $25 million and grossing $160 million worldwide. While not as profitable as Rambo 2, it was still successful enough. Initially, Stallone had hoped to have a new franchise with Cobra, much like Rocky and Rambo, but the reception of Cobra was not positive. It was labelled as cliché and sadistic. But over the years it has been reappraised and people seem to enjoy it, myself included. Another little bit of trivia is that Cobra was a film made up of old ideas that Stallone had saved from being involved on the movie Beverly Hills Cop. Originally, he was going to play Eddie Murphy's role of Axel Foley, but due to creative differences with the producers, he left the project and took his ideas as well as the elements from a novel called Fair Game and made Cobra. Now, because I can't review the original intended version of Cobra, I can only give my rating and opinion on what I have seen, which is the widely available theatrical version, which I now have on Blu-ray. I had it on DVD, but for some reason Warner Brothers, being the penny pinchers they are, didn't put the extras on the Australian DVD, but instead transferred them to the Blu-ray years later. The extras are rather lackluster. There's an audio commentary by the director George P. Cosmatos, who has directed some cool films like Of Unknown Origin, Rambo 2, Leviathan, Tombstone, and of course Cobra. But one thing I can say about Cosmatos is he sucks at audio commentaries. He just sounds so boring and he doesn't share much info about the movie. And it's probably because the production on Cobra was a difficult one. But it also sounds like a pretty funny one to me. Wikipedia has a huge article on it and it's priceless. Apparently half the time on set, Stallone was busy watching a football game or playing grab ass with Bridget Nielsen. No joke. We do get a making of promo from back when the movie was being made, which shows some cool behind the scenes stuff, but I'd personally like to see a new retrospective on the film. And of course, we get a trailer, which is a decent one. So, my overall score for this film? I'd give it 3.5 out of 5. Cobra is a flawed but fun film. For every weakness it has, there's a positive. This movie is a fun watch and nowhere near as bad as it was made out to be. It's filled with cool elements and ideas and is an entertaining action thriller with lots of style. So yes, I do recommend the film. However, I would love to see the complete version of this film because I feel it could be beneficial for it. Thank you for watching my review and stay tuned for more.